Hello, it's Michelle Donahue with Artworks Resin Canada, and I'm going to show you how I flood coat a large wall art piece. Found a couple hairs in it when I thought it was done, and it turned out it wasn't done because of the hairs, so I had to get it all sanded down, and we just finished doing that a little while ago. So I still need to clean the top off. We did kind of wipe it off a little bit, but you want to make sure you get all the dust out, the resin dust. So just do a quick alcohol wash. You can see when it's wet. I just want to make sure I get all that resin dust out of there. It's going to dry again here right away. Try it out a bit more. Okay, while the alcohol is drying, just a little bit more, I've already mixed up my Artworks resin. I've got, how much? 56 ounces. And I've mixed half of it in part A, the resin, and the other half in this is the part A. And this is the part B, and I did the part B first because it's thinner viscosity. I put the part B in first, and then I pour the heavier part A in so that it kind of mixes easier and it's not stuck on the bottom. So when you're trying to mix this much, you just want to make it easier if possible. But I always do part B first. It's just kind of a habit I've developed no matter how much I'm mixing. When you are stirring at the end of your 4 minutes, when you have this much, sometimes you have to do a little bit more. And if you see strings following your stirring, we call them striations, it means you need to stir just a little bit more. But the striations are gone on this, so it is ready to pour. And I just wanted to make sure, I'm pretty sure this is all dry now. Just double check. It is. So when I'm pouring my mixed resin, I pour most of it in the middle, and then I like to go kind of a little bit close to the edge, not up to the edge, all the way around on these big pieces. And then I just kind of zigzag a bit, mostly in the middle though, and then you work your resin out. And they say not to use wooden stir sticks as it can introduce bubbles. What you can do is use your wooden stir stick, and then if you clean it off, there will be resin coating. Keep it clean and you can reuse it again. And then you won't have to worry about the wood because it's already resin coated. A lot of people will use silicones icing spatulas as well. They can be reused over and over again. I'm just going to set this upside down for a minute so the remaining resin can drip out. Now I do have some trowels, and of course they're not handy, but you can take trowels and spread it around. Myself, I'm used to using my gloved hands, and I find it kind of therapeutic to do so, to spread the resin around. So I'm going to just lift this up because it's a bit big and I don't want to get the sleeve in there. So I tend to try to push the part that I put on the outside edge, and I try to make sure I get all the edges covered first with that part I poured. I don't know if many of you have ever done a resin piece in matte finish. When I did this and sanded it My son actually thought it looked pretty cool, just the way it would, the matte finish, but I think it just, you lose so much depth when you don't have the full gloss. But I would like to try a piece, I think, with that matte finish and just see how it finishes up, and maybe black might be a fun color to do, or dark navy blue in a matte finish. But not something I've done yet, but I would like to try one. But on a piece like this, when you leave it matte, you lose all that depth that was built up over the layers. So I think I would save the matte finish for something that didn't have a lot of layers, but it would still be kind of cool. So now keep in mind, I normally would wear a mask, a respirator, when I'm pushing resin around with heat guns or blow dryers or other tools, and with colors in them, you want to protect your air and your lungs. But my filters are toast, so there's no point in putting the mask on right now until I can get a hold of some new filters. They're organic vapor filters, and ever since this pandemic, they've been a little bit tricky to find, so I've got to order some more. But I think I'm fully covered. Just gonna double check here. So I'm going to try and order some more of those. And I'm also going to look for an air filter for my room here. So I'm going to, sometimes I just wipe the glove off, but I want to keep this video short, so I'm just going to take this glove off, put a new one on. And my torch is on the other side. Now, some people on the smaller pieces will use a chef's torch, and the chef's torch is great for smaller projects. It's what I started with and had for the first 2 years. It's got quite a bit of resin on it. Typically, if I'm working with the same gloves, I'll wipe my hands off, and then I'll grab a wet wipe or a baby wipe, and I'll wrap it around so that I don't add more resin. This has been going 4 years strong. I'm surprised I haven't killed it. But so one thing I want to show you is when you use these, they're often put, this one's almost out of butane, but the flame is pointy. And sometimes when you're working on pieces that are larger, it's not the flame that gets rid of the bubbles, it's the hot air. And we decided to get what is called a wide angle tip for this propane torch. And I really like it. It just seems to be a lot better for getting rid of the bubbles, and it's not likely to singe the resin as much because it spreads the flame out. So we'll see the bubbles popping. So I make sure you're always moving your torch. Let it sit, and then I'll do it again. But while I'm letting it sit, I'll just show you. I find I get less hair and fuzz in my pieces if I buy these paper coverall, painter's coveralls. And when you're doing your final coat, I didn't do this and should have. Put a clean set on to prevent you having to do another coat of resin. Resin is so expensive. So the less you have to obviously do more layers, unless you're wanting to build up depth, which is a lot of times what I'm trying to do. In this case, I thought I was done, but found a couple little hairs, so had to start all over again. But I don't have, when they're big pieces, I don't have a way to tent them. When you're using small pieces, you can tent them with a plastic box or some other device. A lot of people will use other canvases if they're using a small canvas. You can use a bigger one to drape over top of whatever your small piece is, but I don't have that. for pieces this size, so I do it in the room and then I leave the room and close the door, and try to make sure your temperature is consistent while you're working and while your piece is curing. You want it to stay warm the whole time through. If the temperature is not consistent, you can end up with divots in the resin or little weird lines from cooling and warming while it's trying to cure. So if you want a nice glass-like finish, you keep the room warm throughout the cure. Some people like to wait about 10 minutes before they torch again. I'm going to just see, I'm missing, I think, some resin on this corner here. I'll just use this to bring it over. Here's the mask I usually use when I'm really working the resin over. We tend to overwork it a lot. It's called a full face respirator with organic vapor filters. And when you're trying to push for effects, it's not uncommon to oversinge or torch or, you know, burn, bring it to smoke point. It's not uncommon for that to happen. So it's just easier to wear a respirator than have to worry about it. If you have a really well ventilated space, they say it's not necessary, but most of us really do not. So the respirator is kind of a good alternative. It is used in so many work environments. Workplace safety supply stores are great for carrying that type of stuff. So call your local one that you're closest to, or look online. The workplace safety supply stores will help you with a variety of things that you'll need for resin art. When you're just clear coating and top coating like I just did, you're not likely to have the same issues with over torching or anything like that. So it's not as big a deal. And you want nitrile gloves. They are more chemical proof than rubber, latex, and vinyl are not chemical proof, whereas the nitrile is. So try to make sure you have a box handy when you're creating in case you need to take them off. You don't want to get resin on your hands. People can become sensitive to it. And so the other thing is try not to use rubbing alcohol to take it off. Try to wipe off as much as you can with paper towels. And then baby wipes. And there's an epoxy scrub that Artworks makes. It helps to remove any resin safely, plus it leaves your hands soft and wherever you've got it. Sometimes I've actually had to take it out of my hair and the Artworks scrub took it out of my hair nicely, so it was nice to have it. I'm going to just torch one You don't want the flame to hit your resin. You want to keep it just elevated. It's actually the hot air that releases the bubbles from the resin. So try not to let it touch. If it doesn't, usually if you move it fast enough, it won't do too much. But if you see smoke coming up, then you've gone too close. It does take a bit of practice and experience to get used to how much you can manipulate it without bringing it to smoke point. Going to have a peek down here and look for hair. If you see any hair in your piece, before you walk away is the time, or dust or bugs. You want to use either a toothpick or tweezers to lift it up and take it out. There is else I was going to mention, you can get these infrared thermometers, and they'll tell you the temperature of your piece. Right now it registers as 77.5, which is great for a nice cure. And you can also aim it at your resin bottles and check. That says it's only 69.6. I'm in a basement, so it's a little chillier. So sometimes you need to warm up your resin before you work with it. You can set it either by a heater or on a heating pad or in a bucket of warm water, but you just have to make sure you really thoroughly dry the outside of the container, because if you get any moisture at all that drips from the outside of the container into your mixing cup, then your piece will not cure nice, because water and resin don't mix. So you want to make sure it's really thoroughly dried off. Some people just put it in a warm room before they use it. And I find mine is often cool because I'm in the basement, but I put it in the sink to warm it up, or beside the heater, and not like touching, but very close to the heater. So I'm just going to give it another torch, because I do see a little bit more over there that needs to be torched. Okay, I'm going to pray to the resin gods that nothing lands in this piece. Right now I don't see any hair or any fuzz or anything. So I'm going to turn off the video, say thank you for watching, and I'm going to leave the room in hopes of nothing getting stirred up to land in this finish, and hopefully it finishes like glass. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.